Hey guys, Wells Knight here, and welcome back to another episode of Satisfactory. Hope you guys are having an awesome day. I'm having a fantastic day. The mission for today is to create a factory that will produce heavy modular frames for us. We are going to need these for a lot of things, so we need to get this automated. We're going to use this recipe down here that is concrete, steel pipes, encased industrial beams, and modular frames. And this basically means we need three resources. We need iron, coal, and limestone, and water, because of one of the some of the recipes we're going to use. So I've set up a little bit of a thing. We're over in this corner of the map. Our main base is right here. You can see it off in the distance. And everything we need is right over here. We got a couple of iron nodes. I think these two are the iron. That one's the limestone. And then down this way, there's a couple of coal nodes as well, so that helps out with our steel. And then down here, on the far end, there is a lake, which we have, which we'll need for water, because we're going to be using, I believe it's the pure recipes. If we look for like iron ingots, iron plus water equals lots of iron ingots. This is basically the goal. We're also going to be using the wet concrete recipe as well. And basically all of these things are going to combine to produce a whopping 3 heavy modular frames per minute. 3. These things are pretty expensive, but you know what? The big thing is we don't actually need to use that many of them at any given time, because they're mostly just used for making machines, right? So like if we look in production, some of the more advanced machines, things like manufacturers require them. I believe some of the, like the blender, you need them for the blender. There's a bunch of different stuff. Train stuff, I believe train bits require, like there's all sorts of stuff that needs them. But you don't need you don't need tons and tons and tons and tons of them, which is good. Also, I think they get used for some of the parts we're going to need a lot of stuff for too. But either way, as long as we get them automated, 3 a minute should actually take care of us, because then we'll just have a constant supply, and, you know, that'll be the good thing. So the first thing we need to do is get this pipe and these resources all brought to over here. This is going to be kind of where the production chain, so to speak, starts. And then when it's all said and done, the output of the 3 modular frames will output to this belt right here that goes the wrong direction. I just realized this is going the wrong way. I'm going to have to redo this whole belt. Isn't that just typical? Okay, well anyway, it will output to this belt, which I'm going to have to remake. Man. Anyway, it's fine. So yeah, let me start getting some machines down and getting this all figured out, and you know, I'll give you an update shortly. Alright, my friends, bit of a progress update. I've got all the super basic processing fixed, all fixed up here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 refineries here that are making iron ingots using iron ore and water. This is the pure iron ore alternate recipe. And then over here we've got 1 refinery making concrete using limestone and water, producing 80 concrete per minute, which is actually pretty good, because the default concrete recipe is, I think, only produces like 15 per minute in a constructor. So yeah, this is pretty sweet. So we have a total of 8 refineries between the two. The iron, the concrete, I'm not actually doing anything with right this very second, but I will be in the future. It's going to be used to make encased industrial beams and the heavy modular frames as well, and this will be more than enough. I am going like a little bit more, I guess you would say, fast and loose with the ratios and amounts in this production line. It's not quite as exact as some of the other stuff we're going with, and the reason for that, the reason that we're a little bit more fast and loose, shall we say, is because if we look at the manufacturer and we look at the recipe we're using, look at this. 9.37 encased industrial beams per minute? What the heck kind of a number is that? 20.625 concrete per minute? Come on now. It's just weird numbers to work with. I am going to overclock the manufacturer a little bit, so it won't be quite that bad. I'll have it up to... here we go. I'll have it up to... I'm going to overclock it to make 3 per minute. So this will be 36 per minute, 22 per minute, etc., etc. But still, just weird numbers to work with. So rather than try and make either A, a factory that is stupidly large, or B, a factory that it involves, like, insane amounts of complicated math, I decided to just, like... if I make a little bit of extra iron ingots, that's fine. So anyway, the iron ingots are basically doing 2 things. They're going into either this line of 9 constructors to be turned into iron plates, or the remaining ingots are being transported over here to these foundries where they are being combined with coal to make steel ingots. And the coal line actually runs underneath down here. So you can see our coal line right here, and then it goes into a hole in the floor and goes underneath where it can be brought up nice and easily so that we don't have belts crisscrossing each other and looking all messy and stuff. So you can see them kind of popping up like right in here. And then the ingots are also being combined, and it is 2 coal and 2 iron ingots to make 3 steel ingots, which is actually like a really good ratio. So that's where all of our steel's coming from. I believe it's... we're doing what? However many of these, we're basically splitting 270 ingots off to these constructors to make the plates, and the rest are all going to these foundries. So the next thing I need to do is set up production for screws, reinforced iron plates, and a bunch of other stuff. We got to make use of the steel. We're going to be using the steel screws recipe. So yeah, still a lot to do, but we're getting there. Alright, I think I have it all done here. So when we last left off, I think I had gotten it up to about this point in the production chain where we were making steel ingots and then iron plates over here. So the steel ingots then get brought around to this line where 180 of them get split off right here and sent to these 6 constructors, which are making steel pipes, and then the remaining steel ingots get pushed off over here to these 2 constructors, which are making steel beams. The steel beams get sent over here to be turned into screws. 1 steel beam, 52 screws. It's a lot of screws. The screws then do 2 things. They either end up over here, where they're being turned into reinforced iron plates after being combined with all the iron plates that are being over there, that are being produced over there. And a lot of the belt work for these assemblers is down underneath, as you can see. So quite a bit of it. But that's going to make our reinforced iron plates. So that's pretty good. You can see they're going into the ground here. And then over on this side, the reinforced iron plates are being combined with the remaining screws to make modular frames. Now, I noticed that I actually did my ratios wrong here. I actually only need like 2 of these assemblers making modular frames, because when I did the math, I got all these numbers correct as far as like the resources needed per minute. But for some reason, I was thinking they were producing 2 modular frames per minute, not 10, or not 5. So I actually only need 8 per minute to produce the reinforced frames, and I have 4 assemblers making 5 per minute each. So I actually have 2 extra assemblers here that I could just remove, but whatever. It's fine. It's okay to produce some extra stuff. I'm not really worried about it. You know, power-wise, we're still totally fine. And it's not like I'm using more resources than I planned for. I've got extra resources here that I don't actually need to be using. But that's fine. Not a big deal. And then finally, the pipes that are being produced over here get combined with concrete to make encased industrial beams, or at least some of them do. The remaining pipes, the remaining concrete, the modular frames, and the reinforced industrial, or the encased industrial beams being produced here, they all end up on these 4 belts, which then come into the manufacturer. And finally, the manufacturer makes our heavy modular frames at a rate of 3 per minute, which is really slow, but it will get the job done. And you can see they're slowly being transported all the way back to the main base over there. So it's all working. It's up and running. Everything is good. So now I need to go and make sure that these are set up properly for the storage room. I think they are, but I'm going to double check and make sure. It took a pretty long time for these to travel here on those Mark I belts, but they're here. We now have a steady supply of heavy modular frames coming in. It's only 3 per minute, but it will add up, and as I said earlier, we don't really need that many of them. So that is all done. It's finished, and it's all functional. So now I think what I want to do is head back to that area and make that place look a little bit better. We might go with this sort of same brutalist style that we did our base with. So I think what I'm going to do is grab a bunch of concrete and stuff like that, and I'll see if I can get that place all spiffied up. I think I have finished up the aesthetics of this factory, and I decided to keep it just super simple. Basically went with kind of the same style as the main base over there, with just, concrete pillars, basically, lots of windows. Oh, there's uranium over here. Get away. Okay, we're gonna have to make the rad suit pretty soon so we can actually start doing stuff with uranium and nuclear power and all that kind of good stuff, but that's for another episode. That's a huge project. Nuclear might even end up being like a multi-episode project. It's quite an undertaking. Anyway, so yeah, this is the building. It's nothing super fancy. I decided, as I said, to keep it super simple. So we have a little bit of an entrance over here, a couple skylights, flat roof, lots of windows. I mean, it's really as simple as it can possibly be. Again, I just essentially took the same style as the main base, made a box around this, and called it a day. I didn't want to get too complicated with it, because we're not really going to be over here at all. Like, this isn't a main production facility where we're going to be spending tons of time here. We're just going to kind of maybe pop over here if something breaks, and that's about it. So, I think I'm good with it. Conveyor belt obviously is going to go all the way back, and that's how the items are going to get there. So yeah, not a huge deal, but that's all taken care of now. Now that we've got that all done, I think I want to make a motor factory as our next thing, and that shouldn't be too complicated because motors are just made with stators and rotors, so we should be able to do that no problem. If we pull up the map, all the resources we need should actually be like right over here. Ironically, that's kind of pretty close to where we were just working, but we're basically going to need some coal, some iron, and some copper. And I think with one pure iron node, one pure copper node, and then some coal, I think there's an impure and a normal coal node over there. We should be able to have all the resources we need, and we should get this. We should be able to get this factory up and running. So, let me get some stuff started, and we'll kind of see how it develops. I've decided to try something a little bit different with this factory and build it on multiple levels, and I think it's going to be good. So, down here on the first floor, this is where we have the basic ore processing. So we've got coal, iron, and copper being pulled in here. The iron splits off here into 4 smelters to make iron ingots. That's 240 iron being turned into 240 iron ingots. The copper goes back here into, I believe it is 10 smelters. 300 copper into 300 iron copper ingots. And then the iron ingots get combined with the 240 coal to make essentially, what would it be? 60 times 4, 240 steel ingots. So we're making steel ingots and copper ingots, essentially, because the iron is actually only needed to make the steel. So this is the first floor, and then what I'm going to do is bring a belt. Let me just grab one of these conveyor walls. Let's see, we'll have one here, and we'll have one here. And these are going to be our outputs, essentially, which will then go up to the next level to, bring the resources up to the next floor where they'll be turned into other stuff. So that's kind of the plan. I'm going to keep working on it, and I'll show you once I got the next floor done. This vertical factory thing is working out pretty well, I gotta say. We've got the second floor all done, and all that's happening on this floor is we're turning the copper ingots into copper wire, and we're turning the steel ingots into steel pipes. And there are 20 constructors working on copper ingots into wire, and 10 working on steel ingots into steel pipes. So the belt work is identical for each of these sections, essentially. It's just sort of mirrored. Going from 1 input to 5, which is essentially what this is. I mean, it's technically into 10, but it's 5 before it becomes 10, is a little bit tricky. What you got to do is basically split it here, and then bring one of the... You essentially split it into 6 outputs, right? Which is easy. But then one of those 6 goes back into a merger and feeds back into the beginning. So this is kind of what it looks like. I'll zoom out a little bit, where if you want to try this yourself, you can just take like a quick look at it. But yeah, pretty straightforward. And then I am producing a little bit more copper wire than I actually need, but it's really just kind of for the sake of symmetry, because I would need 1 less constructor. Or I would have to overclock all these, which I don't want to do for power reasons. But yeah, I decided, you know what, we'll just have a little bit of extra copper wire being made, because that's fine. And that way we can have a nice sort of symmetrical factory. So yeah, pretty good. Second floor is done. Now we need to bring these up to the third floor and turn them into stators, rotors, and motors. Okay, I think I have the whole thing done. I did have to extend the top floor because assemblers, and more specifically the belts for the assemblers, because you have 2 inputs, do take up quite a lot of space. So I had to extend this out a bit to make both the stator and the motor, or the stator and the rotor sections fit. Each of those are being made with 8 assemblers. And then the finished stators and rotors are being combined over here in 4 assemblers to make the motors. And I believe we will be making 20 motors per minute, I think. Yeah, 5 times 4, so 20 motors per minute is the final output of the factory, which is a decent amount. And you do use them for lots and lots of things, so this will be well worth it. But yeah, at this point, it's all good. We've got, basically the inputs here being split out into 2 different ways. Over here, we're splitting off 240 copper wire by using a Mark II belt here and here, and then merging them. Because a Mark II belt can only support 120, so you do that twice, and that's 240, and that's what's making the 240 copper over there. And then the pipes are being split off, I believe it is 60 and 60, because we only need 120 pipes here, and then the remainder is going over here. So basically a little bit of clever belt work to kind of make the logistics of it work out. But everything should be good. At this point, we just need to hook up the power on the top floor, and, then decorate the building, because right now the building, it actually does have like a coherent plan. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it. I just haven't done it yet. So let me get that finished up real quick. All right, it is all finished. I decided, much like this place, to keep it super simple, and just did a lot of the windows. Which one is this? The I think it's the full frame. Yeah, full frame windows. Lots of those, except for where concrete was necessary. Added a couple of pillars here to make it look like this bit here is being supported. And that's pretty much it. And I've checked, everything seems to be functioning. I did notice that for whatever reason, I forgot to make 2 foundries making steel ingots. It's actually supposed to be 6 foundries, not 4. Not sure how I missed that. Like in my planning document that I created, I had 6 written down. I just decided, my brain just randomly was like, no, just make 4. It'll be fine. But I noticed that, and that's fixed now. Also, the output for this factory is coming along here, and since it's so close to the heavy modular frame factory we made earlier this episode, and because it will support it, I decided to just use this belt to run it back to our main base, because we're only making 3 heavy modular frames per minute. We're only making 20 motors per minute, so that's only 23 items per minute, and this belt can support 60. And I can just use a smart splitter over there to separate it out. So I just decided to combine them, merge them here, and then once this reaches back to the base, it splits off and gets sorted out properly into our storage room. So yeah, everything seems to be working. I'll have to go back and make sure that the motors are ending up in the right spot in our storage room, but that's not a big deal at all. That's super easy to do. And I'll probably do that off camera because we are out of time for this episode. My friends, if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Links in the description below, so check that out as well. Otherwise, my friends, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.